recall ever saying
Hello and welcome back to episode 6 of Coming Soon. As you can hear, there's a lot of bedlam going on today. We have Dr. K with us. Say hi.
Hi.
That's better. And we have a special guest today, stressing special. He's actually a historic scientist with lots of PhDs, so if you don't believe him, you could sue him. Wade, Specialist Wade. Say hi.
Hi.
And I guess on a regular plug, he's also from our newer podcast we have called, the fuck are we calling it? Spoiled Meat. Yeah. Which we're doing the third episode this weekend.
So it's cool.
Yeah.
Ew.
So the reason we brought in Wade is because I've got a letter here from a Gregory Mulholland. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It looks really weird, but it's Gregory. What a weirdo. He's a lead singer for Exanimation, and he recently sent us a letter because their drummer has been wanting to get a sex doll. And because he's a drummer, and he's not a human, he obviously can't get girls, so they were just wondering, is this normal, or what's the deal with sex dolls and stuff. And in a previous, I think it was our first show? Yeah, I think it was our first show on Coming Soon. We talked about the gynoids, which was the, I'm sure Wade knows about those, the Nazi sex dolls in World War II. Well, I guess the sex dolls weren't Nazis, but
Everybody's had.
You pull them out of your pack and it's like, Sieg Heil! You're like, okay.
Asking if they were dressed as Nazis. We never found that out.
Yeah, no, I think they were supposed to look like a cinematic goddess type thing, just
an ideal.
Yeah, even though they were a third human size, so I just think.
Was she blonde-haired and blonde?
Child.
Yeah, a lot of Dutch wives were built like that.
And then for the ones
well, Dutch wives, see now, that's just a brand new term. So what do you mean by Dutch wives? Because
actually, it was an old term that usually, I think it comes from like World War II, where they had people in probably Eastern descent in submarine crews.
Japanese.
Probably. But the general idea, of course, being that...
Because St. Louis is in the East, but I don't know that they were...
Well, hey, there could be Japanese people in the East. No, but the general idea is that, if you're like, from the old days, if you were on a ship and you couldn't you see anybody of the opposite sex, you would have something there to relieve stress. And if it wasn't your buddy, as sexy as that eye patch is... Semen. Sometimes you'd have to make something that kind of looked like something that you'd love, and in some of the Japanese subs reportedly had what they were called Dutch wives, which basically slam against the enemy, and essentially they were.
Oh, okay, I get it. So they were just like, okay, we're against these other Western countries, Dutch being one of them.
But essentially,
Dutch is
a lot of everyone, every culture's had some sort of effigy fixation, to a degree. And so people started making dolls, then they started making them full size. Then from full size, they start doing things to them, and it just depends on the person.
Why couldn't they just jerk off in a sock?
Because it's sexier to actually look something in the eye, or make it, this is an effigy of, Dr. K. I've always wanted Dr. K, but I'll never get Dr. K, so I'll make a Dr. K sex doll.
This is so creepy.
Does it come with a realistic prehensile tail?
Stop!
Well, it does have the webbed toes. But
Why didn't they just paint pretty eyes on a sock?
I've always just drawn little eyeballs on my hand. Like that, what was that comedian? Close the door. Senor Monsalas or something. Yeah.
Oh, so it's Pamela Henderson.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, you guys are so cute.
Rosie and her 5 sisters. Twins.
Ew.
That's both hands.
Ew, what I don't understand is why didn't they just masturbate without the doll? I don't see the purpose.
Think of it like commercials.
He's a historian, not a doctor. Damn it.
Not a psychologist. You're the doctor. No, actually, when you hear it tattooed, it's kind of like capitalism. It's one of those things where actually it's developing today. Is that you have people that think that if they pay for it, they can get specifically what they want. They can get rid of the things that they don't like. And if you're emotionally damaged in some way and you can't talk to somebody, or you can't relate to somebody, here's somebody that has all
a drummer.
Exactly. Like a drummer. It has all the physical characteristics of a person, and you can actually do whatever you want, and there won't be get off my hair, ouch, that hurts,
So really,
get the gun out of my
invention
mouth.
Really, the invention of the sex doll was just to make a woman that shuts the fuck up.
In some cases.
Oh, wow, okay.
No, like I said, it's like commercialism. It's one of the things where people are, it's the oldest profession,
I know
and
that.
if you pay for it, you get what you ask for. But now, people are making these sex dolls that are getting better and better, and they're getting exactly what they want.
Yeah, like some of the Japanese simulcrums they're working on.
They're getting an exact eye color, an exact hair color. They can have molds of people's famous parts. They can. So the general idea is that
I've seen Rod Jeremy's
dick
dildos. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a case of essentially, people buying, exactly what they need without all the extra baggage or any of the, costs of, being emotionally attached to somebody.
Oh, good God.
And then well, that's just it. Way back when, say before the internet and everything, you had people that if they couldn't talk to somebody and they couldn't relate to somebody, they're just sad little bastards in the corner. Either they faded away and you never saw them again. Or they
There's always abduction.
Yeah, exactly. That works.
You don't have to talk during that.
Yeah.
Well, you have to say, get in the van.
No, but the general idea is that you have somebody who's sad sitting in a corner. If they had no support group, then boom, they're they
see those are the chicks you want to hit on because no self-esteem. You're just like you're pretty now. Shut up, and then
You think it works that way?
Yeah.
Girls scare me. I don't know.
Girls scare you. Then you have basically if you have
luckily I'm a horror fan.
If you had a proper support group, people would drag your ass out to the bars. Like Masters. They eventually grabbed.
Shit.
No names. Masters of the Universe.
Yes,
I
exactly.
love that cartoon.
No, people dragged him. He was having a bad time. People dragged his ass out. You made him social. And then it ended up being happily ever after, right?
Oh wow.
Talk about emotional damage.
That's happily ever
great.
after. You think we should? Maybe, half the
Hypothetical.
men, half the boys I know should own sex dolls. Then.
Pretty much.
Do you own a sex doll?
Do I own a sex doll?
Yeah.
No.
Do you?
I've always been a huge fan of jerking off. And I have multiple high-speed internet things, so I can get my own objectification,
Well, but if, like you said, that drummer guy was wondering if he's interested and wants to check it out, they have websites like Real Dolls. They actually have, I know of 2 documentaries right now. One is called Boys and Girls from the UK. Well, just Boys and Girls. It was a documentary made in the UK, and it's basically 4 or 5 people and their relationships with their dolls. And they have different types of relationships depending on who they're talking to.
Oh, these people are fucked,
Then
really?
there's another one called Mechanical Bride. I think that came out this year. It's doing the tours right now.
Yeah, independent film festivals.
Film festivals, yeah. And then there's what was it? What was the name of the book? If I can remember.
I know there's while you're looking that up.
Anthony Ferguson, The Sex Doll: A History.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know I actually know someone that lives elsewhere that collects dolls of all types, not sex dolls, but just in any kind of doll, and is also really big into simulcrums, just many different reasons. But and it's female, and she owns a real doll. I can't remember the name of the girl.
Just like stripper names, usually that
No. Well, that's the thing. She has a real doll, and it's it's one of the nice high-end, expensive ones, whatever. But it's never used for sex. It's just a member of the household, one another. Basically,
That's one of the ways that people relate to them.
Setting for them at the table.
I'm not sure. I haven't eaten dinner.
Is she in a relationship right now, or is she?
I think so.
Okay, because that actually adds another aspect to it.
She's very outgoing.
Yeah, because some people.
I don't want to give away too much
because
you don't want. She's known.
Yeah. But there are some people that actually think it's in the Guys and Dolls special. One guy early on specifies, "I don't mind being alone. I just don't want to be lonely."
Yeah.
And so basically having somebody sitting there when you walk in the door. That's as far as some people's relationships go with these things.
Really?
And then other people's, it's a totally, intimate relationship, where they basically use them in 1,000 different ways and have to send them off for repairs. And those poor bastards that have to repair those dolls, some of the trauma that they experience.
I do wonder on the dolls, even like you got the cheap, whatever inflatables that you see at like bachelor parties and stuff, even though I've never been invited to a bachelor party.
They're pretty funny.
But anyway, even like say those cheap ones or say you have a real doll, how the fuck do you clean the orify? I guess that would be plural.
No, like I said, I don't personally own one. There are people outside of these four walls that are willing to do things. And if not for your personality and the drinks you buy them, then for straight money.
Fair enough. Wow, that's...
Or gay money. Yeah. Money knows no
Is there
leanings.
like a
As queer as a
special-
$3 bill, yes, I
Special
understand.
sex doll cleaning service? Like, we'll get the spooge out?
Yeah, because I'm thinking because I know if I had like say we'll just keep using the real doll one, and I'm sure they're good products. Don't sue us, real dolls. Or send us one and we'll test it for you. We'll give you a whatever a review. But no, I'm sure on one of those you wouldn't want like. You'd want it to be more realistic, so obviously, like the nooks and crannies, just like English muffins.
Ew! It's so gross. Where the spooge gets.
Stop
Yeah,
judging.
Gross.
Yeah, so you'd obviously want, say, a tight asshole, tight mouth, tight, what's that other fucking girl thing?
An asshole, a mouth, and you don't know what the other girl thing is?
No.
The non-talking mouth.
The vagina?
There you go.
Vertical smile?
Yes. Anyway, you obviously don't want one that
Cave
like
of
you could
Wonders.
drop. You obviously wouldn't want the hole to be like you could drop a loaf of bread in, so it's obviously going to be tighter. So yeah, it would be really hard to clean that out since it's obviously not the doll can't go take a piss or
Depends on the model. Some of them actually have detachable vaginas. They're
chicken.
essentially fleshlights that you plug in.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense
But
then.
some of them are quite literally
you
just
throw it in
a
the
freaking
dishwasher?
port that you
Yeah.
that you basically fill up until
Yeah, because the fleshlights you can clean out.
Can you throw them in the dishwasher and just wash it out?
Well, I don't
the
think you
model.
can throw the doll in there.
No, I meant the detachable.
Some of these things cost from $2,000, $5,000 for the mid-range ones, and then they go
Holy
higher than that.
fuck.
Yeah, because some of them have like full skeletons inside.
If they have
not human
articulated
skeletons,
skeletons,
but, yeah.
realistic skin colors, flesh. Some of them
Yeah, the skin feels quite real.
For the amount of money that these lonely people spend on them, why don't they just put some money on a dating site? There's how many billion people on this planet? Someone's going to find you.
Maybe,
attractive.
just maybe, these people are like me, and where if they even just touch a person once,
They run.
then they're going to stalk them forever. And so the money they'd have to do on restraining orders, guard dogs, the doll's not going to
If
stalk
that is
you.
an issue, shovels are really cheap.
Shovels, yeah.
Shovels are cheap.
I dig them.
Yeah, and it'll be really easy to keep an eye on people.
Really, people
so
really
then-
spend this
No,
much
some
money
people,
on it?
some people, like you said, the ones that you like using for toys, there are examples where people will use them as photogenic models. Like they'll put them in positions, just sitting on the sidewalk, or or on a bus station. Take photos and actually generate a life story for these things.
Really?
And
You can do your own-
actually, it becomes another.
I haven't
person.
looked, and now I'm going to at a later point, so we can revisit this. I can probably I will just say I guarantee you, there's probably at least one Facebook profile that is that fucking doll's life.
Definitely.
Like as a person.
Wow.
I'm willing to guarantee that, and I haven't even looked for it, but it's probably there.
That's
Then there's also
disturbing.
the fact that the part that you're kind of getting disturbed about. It's like it's about sometimes for some people it's about objectification. Be able to take somebody who's living and breathing and scary because they have their own thoughts and their own ideals,
And not have to worry
turn
like,
them into
hey, I've always
a
had
thing.
this fantasy, and then have the person go, you're
And
fucking
reject them.
crazy. Yeah.
But then that leads into the people that are obsessed with the sleeping partner fetish, necrophilia, and then other just object love.
So in a way, that probably serves a good purpose because
in some cases,
it's like
it's
I've always
a
wanted
release.
to have sex with this person that's while they're dead, but instead I can have the doll that's obviously really well at playing dead.
Did you put it in the freezer so it's cold?
You probably could
You could, but
park it in
it's
front of the
kinda creepy.
park it in front of the air conditioner for a bit.
Oh wow! This.
But
is
on that
so
note, then,
cool.
There's some that are actually heated, so you can go the other way.
On that note, then, since with the Dutch wives and whatnot, I know in their first podcast, and everything I always say is so researched and brilliantly concrete true, I was like, these are the first ever sex dolls. Were there earlier ones that we've heard of?
There's always been some shape or form.
Yeah.
Basically, you'd have I guess the ones that you could probably research easily would be say doll makers in the Victorian era. where you basically would have people where essentially they were cloth dolls
Yeah.
that they made for children, and they were very expensive. Then they upgraded to the dolls with a ceramic, or china face.
Oh,
and
yeah,
hands.
the creepy ones.
And then you could actually doll makers would be commissioned to make bigger ones. So you would actually have either like near life size or full life size. But if you're talking about like actual people that were connected to, like objects, like there are stories in ancient Rome of people making effigies,
Yeah.
of people, and it's the Pygmalion and Galatea from Ovid. Basically the guy makes a statue of such great beauty, falls in love with it, and the gods basically bring it to life. So he can actually consummate his love for this statue, this fake person that he's made.
I'm that way with my PlayStation. I mean, I don't fuck it, but
You could.
Great love. Oh yeah, no,
there.
I have seen the feedback. Fuck, I knew the name of that company too.
There are some video games out there where essentially I know of one. I can't remember the title.
I know of it too.
Where essentially,
and it comes
you're
with
a rapist chasing down an entire family, and depending on how you
Ray play.
You catch
Ray
them,
play.
use them, and use them.
Yeah.
You can eventually basically sexually enslave 3 women, a mother and 2 daughters.
And you can buy the peripherals,
and then you get the peripherals.
that if like you insert your stuff into it, and
Air
then
bladder
it'll
and
move the
heat.
weight.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Like so while you're playing
Yeah.
the game, it's also like you're feeling it and getting off. Yeah, it's a Ray play.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I tried to steer clear of it, like that.
The darker side of Japanese video games.
I'm aware of it, and I would not admit to ever seeing any of it, because that would make me creepy.
I don't think that would make you creepy.
I was looking for Shadowrun, but I would say once again, and I know some people argue that things always escalate, and
Yeah,
probably,
that's a little
but in a
weird.
way, maybe sometimes it also holds
You
people
think
off if they get
there's-
their fix.
Well, see, and that's what makes me wonder, like, if you get the little ones that look like children, is that going to help a pedophile?
It's hard to say.
That's totally up to how it's applied.
Yeah.
If the person
I
realizes
I can understand how that would work.
At its base, a sex doll that is used for sex is an advanced form of masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of getting your rocks off the way that you want, and not involving anyone.
It's like
else.
Burger King.
Yeah,
Have it your way.
No, it's-
Oh no!
but that's and so
I can see the
that's
benefits
where you would
in
end up.
Though it feels more like Arby's.
Yeah.
I can see how that would
there was a
help sick
movie
people.
where it dealt with a series of exotic dancers, and one of the dancers actually purposely would dress up younger, to look like a teen or a preteen.
Oh, sure. Well, there's
And
a
she
whole
actually
porn
announced
industry on that. Yeah, the teen
her
thing. Yeah.
intentions were to, every time I'm of age, but I look like a child, I let the customer do what it wants
Yeah.
to me to save a child from that kind of
yeah, that's what I was
It's like a
thinking.
superhero.
I could see how that would actually be beneficial.
I seriously doubt that they would end up on Kick-Ass 2.
Now what? Now do they have ones
Although Night
with like
Beach, never mind.
farm animals for the really big weirdos?
Well, I've seen an inflatable sheep once, but that was more
I know,
of a
but
joke
that's
type one.
for a bachelor party.
I haven't seen them marketed mainstream, but I'm sure if you have the money, obviously.
Anything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just say that. Yeah.
I know nothing about this. I'm a girl, so I don't.
They have male ones.
Well, then
That's a
you
little
should
bit
go
weird,
and watch
though.
the movie Equus. Then you'll find out exactly what happens. Why horses are bad choices.
Do I want to watch this
No,
movie?
you don't.
Okay, then why did you tell me to watch
it would
it?
be a good way to clear your sinuses.
Every
Let's just
girl
say
wants
that.
every girl wants a pony.
Ew! You guys are gross. Oh my god.
Wasn't that the whole point of this?
Oh no! Really? So
We're all about education. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
Can
well,
we say
do you-
anything educational?
Carla likes to be the common
Voice of
sense
reason.
voice of reason, but she also judges a little,
I do not.
just occasionally.
I know nothing about this. Like nothing.
And I guess
that's
we should
because you have a healthy extracurricular social life.
Are you saying I'm a slut?
No, you actually.
You have friends.
Yeah, you have.
You're able to
friends, you have a
talk to
support
people.
system.
Yeah, you're not sitting in your
Majority of
house
these
afraid to
people
go
are-
out. Yeah.
Are-
Unfortunately,
are
you
big
can say that
weirdos?
a majority of these people either have a fetish, which
Probably slowly
everyone
si-
has their
Yeah.
Could be
druthers.
some sociopathic
there
tendencies.
might be some social issues,
Or psycho.
There could be some psychological issues, but it doesn't mean that if this is what you go for, it's a bad thing.
No.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
What was it? There's a saying that I used to use. I don't care if you have sex with goats, just don't touch my goat.
I don't care what you do, just don't get it on me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where what a person does in the privacy of their own home
well,
is their own damn business.
and especially if there's weird creepy guys that are taking it out on a doll instead of a live human being.
Yeah, because if they did nothing and let it build up over time, they would crack a lot quicker than the whole.
Another thing, there's a movie, done by Ryan Gosling.
Oh yeah.
It's something in
and the real girl or something.
The real girl.
Yeah.
And Ryan Gosling. Basically, he's the heartthrob of all these people running around. He actually plays a socially inept individual who gets a real life sex doll and treats it like a real girl.
And actually falls in love with it.
For family events and social gatherings.
Thanksgiving dinner.
And people, instead of judging him, they basically go along with
they talk about it as her
construct that he's made. And it actually brings him out of his shell and makes him confident enough that he actually starts relating to real people again. So it can actually be used. And of course, since it's Ryan Gosling, we can pretty much guess that 50% of the population, 75, will eventually, if they see this movie, it's basically an example of how something like this, which would be totally verboten. Say a couple of years ago.
If Lou Ferrigno had been the lead character in it, they wouldn't have accepted it.
And they're slowly starting to accept that.
I love you, doll.
Because of this individualistic mentality that everyone's getting, like they're just locking themselves in the room with their computers. Now this is just going to be an extension of that. It's a person getting what they want for money. And just basically in the way that they want it. So it, for people that are more traditional, it's going to be absolutely twisted and sick. But it can help people to either grow into normal people, or you'll never see that guy again.
If you have cash, though, so if it's a drummer looking for it, you're probably going to get an inflatable.
You can buy them used on Craigslist.
Oh, that's gross.
Nice.
Oh no, really?
Nice. It's like, why is this one missing a finger and it has ligature marks on it?
Oh,
there's a coat hanger sticking out of it. So.
Oh no!
That's why they actually have people that repair them for a living. And it's actually, that's kind of creepy because some of them, the higher end ones, actually have an eye bolt on the back of their neck just between their shoulder blades so you can stand them up.
Yeah.
Because they usually can't support their own weight.
Yeah.
And they actually, in Guys and Dolls, the documentary, they actually went to one of these repair guys, and he actually had a wall of them hanging there, no hair, no clothes. And he would do things like he'd walk up and, he basically, slap it down, he'd slap it down, kick up its legs, and he'd look like, oh, look at this, the whole vagina's just gone to shit. And he'd just be ripping out plastic and rubber, but he'd replace all the parts. They pay him, he ships it back, and, oh, look, your girlfriend's back to 100%. It's
does he have to clean the dried spooge out?
I would assume that
they probably have a process.
He would have to.
Oh, wow, that's kind of.
I'm sure they probably. I don't know, but I would guess you'd have a solution process.
Yeah. It's like well, I'm done. Just roll her into the trunk and send her off. And 3 weeks later, what's that smell?
There's too much horsey sauce in my Arby's.
Oh, it's like new car smell when they come home. That's gross.
New cum smell.
New cum smell.
Yeah, they just hang it off of the belly button ring.
Brings new meaning to show me on the dolly where the bad man's gonna touch you.
Oh no!
Plunk.
Oh no! Wow. Do you guys? Either one of you have no experience with that?
No,
figgies. No. Just not my thing.
Oh wow! It's a whole industry devoted to it.
Yeah.
Eh?
If Real Doll sent me one to review, I'd do it.
Would you?
Just to write about it. Yeah. But yeah, I either prefer humans or my hand. Yeah.
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 Animals are a little far.
Like I've said in previous things, my thing with people and animals, because I try to be the one that doesn't judge around here. But the problem with animals is they're not saying yes. So you might be like, well, it's shame to enjoy it. It's like the animal's just confused. Okay.
Yeah.
So my big thing with animals is don't do anything that can't say yes or no.
Wow, I've never even thought of the sex dolls. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really
actually, and it's kind of just a side. It's not quite the sex dolls, but for the thing we were talking about with the fucked up video game is also, it's probably the same company too, at least that makes the hardware, is they're getting pretty decent with it, developing like say you have a partner or just a pen pal, whatever, across the planet at the time, they can have a unit for the male and for the female, and you wear it, and then you have like cyber sex, whatever, and basically you can be triggering what happens to her, or he can be triggering what happens to him.
This is a whole new level of geek I've never
So yeah, like over the internet,
it can get even worse.
You can be fucking over the internet, basically. And I would try that in a fucking heartbeat. Very expensive, though.
There are actually implants that some people get for chronic pain, which are basically chips that are put right into your spine.
Yeah, stimulators.
And somebody ended up, one doctor figured out
finding the sex nerves
just right. You hit the right nerve. And then you basically can have a sexual experience. Through just electronic interaction with your nerves.
Yep.
Eventually with interactive technologies, you're going to be able to wire that chip in your back.
So you don't have to be wearing a bunch of equipment.
Buddy. And so instead of having a virtual air bladder warm suit going on, they can also basically start strumming your keys, from a distance, with their freaking cell phone.
Oh, wow.
People are going to lose their minds.
The most inappropriate time at the grocery store or the bank or something.
Yeah,
really funny.
I would say women I know, they would be like, fuck you, because typically, especially if it's a dude on the other end, even though you other times you're like, yeah, I'm glad I'm bringing someone pleasure. But they're gonna try and do it at the most inopportune time. While you're standing there talking to your mother, you're like, yeah, press this button.
Well, people already, do get into that.
Yeah,
stuff with the butterfly.
The butterfly panties and whatnot.
Or the vibrating bicycle seats.
Yes.
Vibrating bicycle seats?
Yeah, they're actually selling them.
That's what Freddie Mercury was writing about. I want to ride my woo.
Actually, you should go to the website. It's an aggregate site called DudeIWantThat.com.
Oh yeah.
They just pull things from other sites.
Yeah.
And I actually saw it advertised.
Yeah, a lot of tech gear. The only thing I foresee being a problem with the chip, and especially speaking as a guy, not to say women don't enjoy pleasure, but guys. Fuck it. I'm going to say as a human. But, a lot of humans like pleasure so much that I remember a study that, I'm just going to make up a date here, 1947 or 1963, whatever. There was a study where they had wired to the pleasure zones a monkey and gave it a button. And basically...
It turned into a junkie.
Well, it pressed it so much that it wouldn't eat, it wouldn't do anything. It just died in a few days. Because why if you could get that feeling that you have right at the moment of fucking orgasmic release and make it continuously go on, yeah, sure, some people would probably be like, okay, I'm tired of this, let it rest. But the fact is your junk and other stuff isn't getting sore, you're skipping all the other moments.
And then
you're just hitting the golden moment constantly. So there are some people that literally, almost like in Shadowrun with the Simpsons, once you're in a happy place, you're never going to fucking leave.
That would be an electronic way to thin out the herd. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I actually worry, like even myself, I'm like, damn, but I like to think, you'd fucking quit after a while, but it would be.
Basically,
it'll be interesting.
Power. That'd probably
You haven't gone to work in 6 months. And, you're like, well, I guess I have to work so I can get another.
Wow.
Dehydrated, skeletal skin hanging off the bone.
Because they've been masturbating.
Yeah, so they'd have to put maybe a limiter on it, like the morphine buttons in the hospital. You can only have an orgasm once every 10 minutes.
That's still a lot. Holy cow.
But I can believe there would be some people that would like the monkey.
That story with Ozzy Osbourne after he had that four-wheeler accident. One of his buddies came in, and Ozzy was on a morphine drip. And so he basically used up his morphine drip right away. And then he waited until the shift change. And then he actually,
it's not working.
He doesn't actually, what you saw on TV, that's not him.
Yeah.
But he's like, so they'd actually set him up with another set of morphine, and he'd fire it off as fast as he could again.
Oh no!
And somebody realized what he was doing, and they actually
that's an addictive personality.
We don't want to kill him, and he goes, "This is Ozzy Osbourne. You're not going to kill him.
You're not going to kill him." Did you die from too many orgasms?
Well,
I'm sure it does speed your heart up.
Yeah.
There's a heart fraction. There's dehydration, which actually would affect your blood pressure. There's always the chance of stroke. More than 2, actually. Maybe 3 or 4, 5 or 6. Something right.
Yeah.
That's you're done. No.
That'd be a good way to go.
So, for the listeners that actually fucking read, I'm sure there's one of them. What was the name of that one book again? Because I'm actually gonna read it this week.
I want to read it.
This is
It is called
the history one.
The Sex Doll, a History by Anthony Ferguson.
Anthony Ferguson. No relation to that annoying singer.
Is it Ferguson?
Fergalicious.
Oh, Jesus.
Fergie,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
no, stop.
Not to be
heroin
confused
ad
with
that pisses herself
Sucalicious.
on stage. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Really, I'm really intrigued about this whole sex doll.
So we totally did not answer your question about your goddamn drummer, but I'd say if he wants to get a sex doll,
let him do it.
it'll keep him away from the chicks that are talking to you guys. Not that chicks talk to drummers, but just in case.
What do you mean? You know, chicks love drummers. You know,
Well,
anyone that can keep up that pace for several minutes
That's
at a
true.
time.
That's
Anyone who can keep rhythm
Yeah.
is a wonderful person.
Yeah,
you know, when it comes to the ladies. You know, just can't count the number of times that I've had lockjaw or my hands go like I can't do
Oh
it.
my god. Wow, I'm really intrigued about this whole sex doll thing.
Yeah, well, there you go. So buy him a blow up
Real
one.
Dolls
It's
is
cheap.
only one of the companies.
Yeah, there are other companies. That's just the one I was thinking
there's
of.
ASFR websites, and I think there was one on GeoCities called BurkNet, BURKEnet. I'm not sure about the Middle East.
And net is spelled N-E-T.
Yeah, but it's essentially
I'm a
Real
science.
Dolls is pretty much will give you all the links that you need.
Yeah,
if you go
they're the
digging for it.
Band-Aid of Band-Aids, you know, as in
Yeah.
they've gotten
Brand
smart.
name that, you know,
They've gotten
the actual
brand-nated.
product, yeah.
Jello.
That's cool. I'm really interested.
So yeah, get him a doll and keep the chicks for yourself,
And some lube. Get him some lube.
or get a doll with like
Actually,
all
high
the,
maintenance. You actually got to powder them down, and you got to keep them looped up on your own. So, yeah.
Oh, really?
or get a doll with all 3 holes and get the whole band in there and do the Screaming Eagle.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
You know what the Screaming Eagle is?
what?
That's where the 3 main holes. You fill those. You need 5 guys, and then 1 in each hand. So she's like,
Oh my god!
see, back when I was in the naval forces, we used to call it just making them sub safe. Like if you were going underwater, she made them airtight. Yeah.
Oh my god!
There's also the Eiffel Tower. You know,
What's
front,
it?
back, and a hand. Front, back, and a high five. There we go.
No! You sure you guys don't own sex dolls?
It was like a pig roast.
Oh! I really think you should.
Hey, I have access to outdoor life and access to the internet.
Oh my god.
So there you go. We'll talk to you later. We're cutting this one a quickie. Have a good night and
Oh my god. Have a good night.
come again.
And again.
Say it, Wade.
Come again.
Oh, he started over.
And again.
And again.
And again.
Fuck off.
Oh.